Welcome to Sleepy Hollow, a place where the leaves are crisp, the ghosts are restless, and the pumpkin budget is clearly out of control. A quiet valley haunted by whispers, legends, and one particularly headless overachiever.
You noticed.
Today, we're riding straight into one of America's oldest ghost stories, a tale of love, fear, and one very determined horseman without a head.
Yes, considerably.
In this episode, we'll explore where the story came from, the story itself, what inspired it, why it stuck around for over 2 centuries, and how it shaped American folklore. From the front page to the book page to your Halloween lawn display. So grab a lantern, saddle up, and try not to lose your head. Let's begin. I'm Jack, and this is Timeless Headlines.
And now for something completely different.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
I am Dracula.
Before we meet the Headless Horseman, let's meet his creator. Washington Irving was America's first true literary celebrity, and the first writer to make a living purely through words and imagination in the United States. Born in 1783 in New York City, just as the American Revolution ended, Irving literally came into the world as the United States was being born.
I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
He was named after George Washington and even met him as a child. Imagine being a kid whose namesake also happens to be the George Washington. That's pressure. Irving started out as a law clerk, but his real passion was storytelling. He began publishing humorous essays and satire under fake names, poking fun at New York society. His early hit, A History of New York by Deirdre Knickerbocker, turned colonial Dutch settlers into punchlines and gave rise to the name Knickerbocker as a nickname for New Yorkers. It was witty, irreverent, and unmistakably American, and it made him famous almost overnight. But Irving wasn't just a funny man. Beneath the humor was a restless, romantic soul. After the death of his fiancée in 1809 from tuberculosis, he left the US and spent nearly 2 decades wandering through Europe, in England, France, Germany, and Spain, writing, reflecting, and immersing himself in old legends. He visited ruined castles, foggy graveyards, and tiny villages where ghost stories weren't campfire tales, they were local news. In other words, he wrote his horror stories in the scariest place imaginable, England, a land where the tea's hot, the weather's cold and rainy, and the houses are most definitely haunted.
Hello, Governor.
There, Irving absorbed centuries of Gothic tradition, from ghostly nights to headless spirits, and started thinking about how those stories might sound in an American voice. That inspiration culminated in the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, published in 1820, a collection that introduced 2 stories that would make Irving immortal, Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Through those tales, he did something revolutionary. He took American landscapes, American history, and American superstition and turned them into literature, that could stand beside the grace of Europe. And that brings us to the story that cemented his legacy, the tale of a timid schoolteacher, a haunted valley, and one horseman who literally couldn't keep it together. The setting is the quiet Hudson Valley of New York, a sleepy little glen where mist hangs low and superstition hangs even lower. The locals whisper of ghostly figures, bewitched bridges, and strange shapes that move in the night. At the center of these stories is one spirit above all, the Headless Horseman, said to be the ghost of a Hessian soldier who lost his head to a cannonball during the Revolutionary War. Now, every night, he rides through the woods in search of his missing head and anyone unlucky enough to cross his path. Into this eerie valley arrives Ichabod Crane, a lanky, nervous school teacher from Connecticut. He's smart, polite, and just a little too confident in his own charm, especially when it comes to Katrina Van Tassel, the beautiful daughter of a wealthy local farmer. Unfortunately for him, Katrina already has another admirer, Brom Bones, a local prankster, the man of muscle, who's basically the 19th century version of a small-town jock. Cue the love triangle. Ichabod competes for Katrina's affection, attending village parties, flattering her father, and trying to outshine Brom. One night, after a harvest festival filled with ghost stories and laughter, Ichabod sets off alone through the dark forest toward his home. The air grows still. The crickets stop. The only sound is the steady clop of his horse's hooves. Then he sees it. A dark rider following behind him, tall, silent, and headless. Crane rides faster. The horseman follows. Faster still, the horseman closes in. They race through the woods towards a covered bridge, where legend said the ghost's power ends. Ichabod crosses the bridge, and in that instant, the horseman hurls something straight at him. The next morning, all that's found is a smashed pumpkin and a missing school teacher. Some say Ichabod ran away in fear and never came back. Others swear the horseman got him. Irving never tells us for sure, and that's the beauty of it. The story lives in the twilight space between belief and imagination, where the line between ghost and gossip is just thin enough to disappear. With the legend of Sleepy Hollow, Irving gave America something it had never had before, its own folklore. He turned the New York countryside into myth, the American farmer into legend, and the humble pumpkin into a symbol of Halloween itself. Irving didn't invent his tale out of thin air. He wove it from both sides of the Atlantic. From Europe, he borrowed from the Gothic tradition, the dark castles of Horace Walpole, the ghostly riders of German folklore, and the romantic melancholy of authors like Goethe and Walter Scott. Scott's ballads of Highland spirits and haunted nights directly inspired Irving's blend of terror and comedy. Even the Headless Horseman has roots in European tales of beheaded soldiers and vengeful phantoms. From America, Irving drew earthly realism from the Hudson River Valley. Dutch settlers, superstitious farmers, church picnics, and rural rivalries. He took the new nation's habit of storytelling around a fire and gave it a literary form. Sleepy Hollow itself was modeled after Tarrytown and its surrounding hills, a place where Revolutionary War memories still lingered like the fog over the valley itself. That mix, European Gothic and American local color, was the secret sauce. Irving proved that American stories didn't need to imitate Europe, they could compete with them. He gave the United States its first folk literature, turning local legends into national myth. 2 centuries later, the legend of Sleepy Hollow still rides on. The story has been reimagined in countless forms, from Disney's 1949 cartoon to Tim Burton's brooding film starring Johnny Depp, to modern TV shows and comic books. Every Halloween, the town of Sleepy Hollow becomes a real-life haunted destination, complete with parades, pumpkin patches, and one galloping horseman under the moonlight. But Irving's influence goes far beyond adaptations. He shaped the American imagination. Writers like Nathaniel Hawthorne, Edgar Allan Poe, and later Stephen King followed in his footsteps, blending small-town life with the supernatural, humor with horror, and myth with modernity. The idea that an ordinary place could be haunted, well, that's pure Irving. He made folklore feel local. He made ghosts feel American. And today, the Headless Horseman lives on not just as a Halloween mascot, but as a symbol of something deeper. The stories linger, outpacing us like a phantom rider who never truly fades. Washington Irving once said that great minds must be ready not only to take opportunities, but to make them. This legend is funny, frightening, and deeply American. It captures everything we love about ghost stories: mystery, humor, a little romance, and a lot of pumpkins. But beneath the laughs, there's a deeper truth. It's about fear, how superstition and imagination can take control, how our own anxieties can become the monsters that chase us through the night. That's why the Headless Horseman still rides. Because he's not just a ghost, he's a reflection of all of us. Our past, our fears, our unfinished business. So the next time you see a jack-o'-lantern glowing in the dark, remember, somewhere out there a horse is galloping, a sword is raised, and a rider with no head is still looking for his. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is part of our Halloween series, so there'll be more videos like this. If you did enjoy, please like, subscribe, check us out on Patreon. We always very much appreciate your support. As always, I'm Jack, and this has been Timeless Headlines.